Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life podcast. I'm Mary Crean, and I'm excited to be here today. We have an interesting guest, and I think you're going to love what he has to say, and it's perfect for living longer, living better, our longevity byline that we like to say. I'm here with Don Sena. Don is a journalist with 35 years as a writer and editor for large publications. He's worked at the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post, and he was editor-in-chief for Microsoft MSN Portal. He recently debuted his new digital publication called Nifty 50 Plus, which is dedicated to informing and inspiring the 50 plus crowd. Don, welcome to the Prime Life podcast. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and why you're up to Nifty 50 Plus.
Sure, and thank you, Mary, for having me on. Much appreciated. I was very excited to do this podcast in particular. So I've been a writer and a journalist for many, many years, 35 years. I've worked, as you mentioned, at some big newspapers. I made the jump, as many in my generation, some didn't, some did, to internet digital publishing and internet journalism. When I was at Microsoft for over 20 years doing various jobs, I ended up being the editor-in-chief of MSN, which is still going strong today. I also ran a personal finance publication for many years after Microsoft. And I decided that I really wanted to do a website that was focused on the 50 plus crowd. I am 57, but it's such a dynamic and inspiring group of people. And I felt there really wasn't as much great content out there for this particular group. And I heard the same across for many, many different people saying, wow, I wish there was just more for our age, and also represents the diversity and the excitement of what we're doing at this age. And, and people think of 50 plus and they might say senior and they might say other things, but there's the diversity of how people are living at this age is really amazing. We have people who, like myself, who are 57, but I have a high school. I have a son who's a sophomore in college and a son who's a sophomore in high school. And so I'm still raising my kids at home. And then there's folks in my mom's cohort who's almost 80 years old and living obviously a much different life. And there's so much diversity in there and so much excitement going on that I felt like we really needed a digital publication, something that was easy to access. And that got into many topics that are important to this particular group of people. So we cover health, we cover personal finance, very important. We cover family and relationships. And we cover discounts and how to get discounts for travel. And we're going to start getting into even more categories as we go forward. So I felt that I really wanted to serve at this particular audience. And so I went about creating the website. We've been live just a little while now, but to great reception, starting to get some really good numbers and some great feedback from the audience. And so very happy to have launched Nifty 50 Plus.
I love the title. I think it's great. So tell us a little bit about what's the most interested content. In other words, what are people gravitating toward on your site?
Oh, absolutely. We have, like I said, lots of different topics out there, whether it's health or whether it's personal finance, and informative pieces that really help our audience maybe learn about a topic and stuff. But the one section that really is getting a lot of attention is a section I called You're Too Old for That. And it's tongue in cheek because it's a section of content and stories about inspiring people who are age 50 or over doing some amazing activities and amazing things in their life, whether it's a major career change, whether it's just an activity you might not expect someone to be doing at that age. I talk to a lot of people that say, people think I'm crazy for doing this particular endeavor at this age. But I found that there are so many examples of that out there in the 50 plus crowd that I really wanted to highlight that. And the more I look and the more I find these inspiring people, the stories just keep coming and coming because there's so many examples out there. And that particular content, people are really saying, "Oh, I love your site. I'm getting a lot of great information from it, but man, I really love the You're Too Old for That." And of course, the irony is that you're not too old for that, as it says right on the thing, and that and you're not too old to do the things that light you up. And so that particular content is doing well. An example is we found someone who was 55 years old, and they were a great singer back in high school. They had been on lots of all-star singing teams and had really done a lot with it, and then really kind of forgot about it. Life went on, and they didn't pursue it in college, and it just as they got into their family life and as they got into their work life, and it just kind of faded to the background, and they never really thought about it. But it's something that they thought about a lot. And this particular person's mom, her name is Beth. This particular person's mom was encouraging her late in life to get back into singing some way, somehow. And so she thought about it. So she finally said, I really need to do this. And so she ended up, there was an opening for a singer for a cover band, the kind of band you might see at a wedding or at a local pub. And so she went for the audition and got it. And they sing rock and roll. They sing everything from Pat Benatar to Journey. And she's the lead singer of the band now. And she is absolutely thrilled and just loves being able to go out there and practicing each week and then having a gig on the weekends. And when you read the story on the site, you'll see that it's just amazing that this is something that she easily could have never have done. But she decided, and then she started to say, do I really want to do this at 55 years old? And she said, you know what? I do. And if I don't at least try, I'm not going to ever know. And it will be a regret. And I don't want to have that. And so she went out and did it. And I was singing. And it was really an inspirational story about that. And it really involves her mom, who was battling cancer at the time. And she did it partially to say, hey, Mom, I'm doing this again. And so that was also part of her inspiration. And so her inspiration becomes our inspiration with a lot of these stories.
I love that. And just so you know, we have so many guests on our podcast that resemble that Beth that you mentioned, and also yourself. People are living longer. And so when you think about it, we know people who say, I'm going to retire, and then they retire and they're like, I can only play so much golf. I can only travel so much. I don't feel like I have purpose anymore. So they are either going back in time and saying, what did I love? Do I still love that? The singing you talked about. Or I want to create a solution for perhaps a problem that this age group, if you will, is experiencing. And when you think about it, if people are retiring in their 50s and 60s, they could live another 30 years. So yes, finances are important. We talk about this a lot on Prime Life Podcast and also at our company. One sort of quiet, if you will, determining factor that sometimes people forget about is outliving your savings, longevity. So again, there's an upside, and not to scare people because, we don't want to do that on this podcast. But I think what you're doing is wonderful because you are inspiring others to say, hey, maybe I'm not a singer, but I always like to, I'm making this up, cook. Yeah. And, it's not too late for me to maybe take some cooking lessons and even become a chef. Who knows? Maybe even open a restaurant, right? Because it really depends on where you are and what your family circumstances are. And And I think it's wonderful that you're lifting these stories up so people can identify and say, okay, if that person did it, perhaps maybe I can as well. And
Absolutely.
what do you personally think, Don, that is so inspiring about 50 plus? And why do you feel this group is so special?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
Nassau is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years. But we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Oh, this is special because there's so much that I'll say we, because I'm in that cohort. There's so much that we are doing right now, and so much that we can do. And as you mentioned, we're all living a bit longer. In fact, there's a story on the site about a new study that came out about the number of people who reach 100 years old is growing exponentially, and it's an amazing story. And I think it's special because these folks we're all still growing in this age. So I mentioned the sandwich generation. That's another particular story on my site, a topic that's getting a lot of engagement and a lot of reads. And what I mean by the sandwich generation is there's a lot of people out there, I've learned, taking care of kids at home who are also helping to take care of their parents who are elderly. And it really is a hard thing to do. But one of the things I've learned of doing this is that, man, these folks are so special in that they are kind of working with their kids, but also with their elderly parents, and they don't have a lot of time. And so one of the stories talks about, I want people to realize that, yes, this is happening. This is hard. And here's some great tips and advice from experts. We always talk with the best sources and experts on my site, but also you're not alone. And so lots of people are out there doing this particular area. And then the amount of the folks, say in my mom's generation, right, the baby boomers and stuff are continuing to do such amazing things. I mean, my mom, for instance, she's way online, right? Didn't grow up with it, but loves the connection she has with the outside world with being online. And she does get out there with great neighbors and friends and does a lot of activities. It's that the folks like that are finding this great content online, whether it's on their phones or on their computers and stuff. So I wanted to make sure that we were presenting to them, and also the amazing things that people are doing. I don't want people to feel like, whether it's the younger group saying, well, when they get older, what are they going to do, or what can they do and stuff, when there's so much out there that we can and will be doing. And so this group is fun to talk about, is fun to meet because they are so active. And also the other thing I love is the wisdom, just the accumulated wisdom for people who are 50 plus is, I think, really important to get out there and to talk about and to learn from. And I think that is something that I really would like to do in the site, that there's so much to learn from this particular cohort of people in so many different avenues. And it's great. And to have the energy and the wherewithal to pursue your activity. So for instance, you talked about personal finance, very important topic, because we need to have the savings. We need to have the means by which we can live the longer lives, but still pursue the things that we want to do. I have a story on the site about a gentleman, and I love this guy. He's got no fixed address. He just travels. And
he's like a nomad.
Exactly. But he does it in such a cool way in that he will go to wherever he wants to go. And this is worldwide. And if he feels like he's maybe depleting a little bit more savings, he gets a job. And so he says, I'm going to stay in this area for about 2 months, do this particular job, loves the jobs that he does, replenishes, and then moves on maybe to the next area. And so he said, if you told me, and I hear a lot of this phrase, if you told me 30 years ago, 25 years ago, even 10 years ago, that I would be doing what I'm doing, I would say you were crazy, but here I am doing it. And it's very, the word I keep coming back to is inspiring, and to do that. There is a woman we wrote in the site who offers surfing lessons for women over 50, or to surf over 50 years old. That's amazing that we can do that. And so
I love all those examples, and we've heard that quite a bit. Like, well, I never thought I would do that. Like the gentleman who's the nomad living in different places, and then if he decides, oh, his savings is getting a little bit low or whatever, I'm going to, get a job and do something, interesting or fun. I think it's about trying to get the most, because we keep hearing over and over, purpose is key with living longer. And there's a book, there was also a book that came out, and I was actually trying to get Mo Rocca on my podcast, and I was pretty close. He wrote a book called Octogenarians, and it's, late in life debuts, comebacks, and triumphs. That's his book. Yeah. And I still, maybe there's hope to get Mo Rocca on Prime Life podcast. But, you alluded to like the number of centenarians that are among us. We know we have the blue zones. I know there was an article recently about the growing number of centenarians in Japan, for example, but they're all over. The blue zones are, Sardinia. Actually, there's a couple in the United States, one Loma Linda, California, I believe. And the bottom line is the commonalities are purpose, movement, I should say, not moving, healthy diets, but the social community component is really impressive. And many years ago in my family, I'm Italian, and my family, aunts, uncles, cousins lived very close together, grandmas or nonnas, as we called them. And they kind of helped each other out and lived together. And then that kind of moved away a little bit, where people, of course, wanted their own place and they kind of expanded. And I know there have been some studies done about Italians in Italy, still kind of have that very close familia kind of background with aunts, uncles, cousins, and all of that together, community. And so I love all of that, because I do believe that the social component, you talked about your mom earlier and what she's up to. And I believe you said she's 80. My parents are still with us. I have one that's 88 and one that's 89. My mom's 88. My dad's 89. And they're still living at home, living in place, as I like to say. They've had some challenges here and there.
Sure.
But my mom's still an amazing cook, so she's still cooking. And even though you're like, Mom, we'll bring over the food. No. And and she does that, and she finds joy. So what I'm curious about, Don, with your Nifty 50 Plus is, do you have various journalists that write for you, or are you the main writer? How is that working? And then I know you have stories that are inspirational that you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about that piece?
Absolutely. So I come from old school journalism. Like I said, I worked at the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune before the internet. And even when I crossed over to digital publishing and MSN, I brought a lot of that what I think that high quality way. I have writers who I hire, and these are established veteran writers. One of the things that's important for me is that every story has a byline. Every story has the writer bio, so you can see where they've written, what type of content they've written for. I've got some amazing health experts who write about health. I have some super personal finance writers, some certified financial planners who write for me on that particular area. I've got some great experts around the family and relationships area. These writers have great sources. The sourcing and the expert level of people who they're talking to is very important to me. So I want people to read it and say, wow, I feel very informed from very credible sources. So I have a array of writers, a ton of writers who write for me. And it's been great. I've had writers reaching out to me saying, I love this site. I love where you're going and your audience, and I would love to write for you. And that's very important to me. Everything you see on the site will be from an expert, from a great writer, interviewing experts, and obviously edited very much so. And that quality, I think, is very important to me. When I came out, we talk about, I have a kind of an ongoing series about, I call it Tales from the Second Career. Right. So I'm talking about people who have done things later in life, whether they've made a wholesale change of a career because they always wanted to, or they felt they needed to, or whether they maybe have taken their expertise and turned it into a second career. So for instance, I worked for publications and companies and corporations for all of my career. And I said, I always wanted to do my own website because I feel I have the expertise and the energy and the passion, which is very key to do that. And so I went out on my own and I did that particular story, that particular work of creating my own website. And I said, if I ever did that, and I said this all the time, and I would see new sites and sites that we're going to do it right. And what I mean by right is all the things I learned from my mentors, for my teams who worked for me, from all the people I learned from, to do high quality, great journalism from super writers. And so that is the pledge I have for that particular site. You'll see a ton of writers on there, all with great backgrounds, all doing some amazing things. My fitness writer and health writer is a certified personal trainer who actually specializes in working with seniors in their particular gym. And so that's just such great insight and things people can trust.
So here at Nassau, we have a fitness center, but we have a health and wellness ethos. So we're very fortunate. So that's part of why I love working here. And we actually have a fitness center manager that I actually just spent some time with this morning. And we did create a white paper. He was on Prime Life Podcast. We create content for our independent agents that sell our products. And so we're elated about that. And it's so important as individuals get older, their health needs perhaps change. I began my career in the fitness business, so I'm very biased to all of that. And I love hearing that you have a health and wellness piece that's important to you. But as we kind of are getting close to the end of our conversation, where do you see the future of Nifty 50 Plus? And then I will ask you our final question.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to keep going with this great site, finding more and more inspirational people doing inspirational things from all over the United States and even the world of doing this. And so I always am looking for, because we all know that inspiring person. They said, man, that story needs to be told. But we're looking to get more into video. I think these people are so inspiring that to see them and to maybe even see what they're doing and things will be great. So we'll be definitely getting into video. Two things I think are important. I really would like to create a community with this site, a place where people can come to find like-minded folks or people who might do similar things and get connected on that. And so building the community is going to be very important to me. We're going to have things like maybe an advice column about various things where people can write in if they have a question they maybe have not seen answered for them in particular. And so I want to be able to offer very specific feedback and content for people, because usually if one person has a question or an issue they're dealing with, lots of people do. And so I want to create that community feel with Nifty 50 Plus. That will be important. And then we're going to have things like newsletters. Lots of people like to consume in different ways. Some people like newsletters in their inbox. Some people like to go to the website. So we have the website, obviously, www.nifty50plus.com. And we have social media handles, so at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And And so with that, we want to make sure that the site is accessible for in any different way that people want to read it there. And so we'll have those kind of offerings coming up so we can meet people where they are.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because as marketing person, that's what we should be doing. But I think we should be doing that whether you're a marketing person or not, is to meet people where they are. So Don, final question.
Sure.
You've had quite an interesting career prior to Nifty 50 Plus. You could do whatever you want. Why do you wake up every day and do what you do?
I love it because I am a big believer, and I've always have been, in journalism and storytelling, and getting information, solid, credible, trustworthy information out to people. And that's been I think a hallmark of my career at the various places that I've worked, and the various people that I worked with and inspired me along the way. But then the second thing is that I believe that the 50 plus community is so diverse, and there's so much going on that we need to tell our stories a lot more, to have that purpose, to have that. And there's so many people out there having that purpose and getting up each day with that purpose. And I want to help tell those stories, because I think it can remind people that we're here, we're doing some amazing and great things. We have a ton of insight and life experience to offer, and we can make anything, whether it's a family or companies or anything else, that much greater. And so those two things, telling credible information and trustworthy information, and then helping this particular cohort of people, the 50 plus crowd of people, tell their stories, those two things really energize me. So I hope to do this for quite a long time, and get this site really, really moving.
Well, it sounds like you're going to do that. Sounds like you're very determined, and I've been to your site and I love it, and I think it's great. If individuals or companies want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? We'll put everything else in the show notes.
Absolutely. Anybody can email me. It's Don, D-O-N, at senapublishing.com. So that is my email. That's my direct email. It will go right to me. And I welcome any email for any corporations that want to get in touch, individuals who want to request a story, feedback on the site, and things like that. So that particular email. You also, if you go to the About page on my site, you'll also see a link to the email as well, if you don't remember it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you and I are going to stay in touch, because I know we have a lot in common. And so we'll think about ways to collaborate. And to all of our audience, we really appreciate you spending time with us, and like us, share our content. Tell us what we're doing wrong. We just love to hear from you. And we look forward to spending time with you again on another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you again, Don, for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.